Tonight, President Buhari and Vice President Osinbajo received their first shots of the AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine. State governments, religious and traditional leaders urged to lead vaccination campaign. Gunmen abduct 12 people after invading the Kaduna Airport Junior Staff Quarters. Residents call for urgent security beef-up in the area. Borno State Governor Babagana Zulum inspects damaged infrastructure in Dikwa following attack by insurgents as soldiers killed in Mate are buried in Maiduguri. And U.S. Senate passes $1.9 trillion relief plan aimed at helping Americans deal with the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. Plus, sports, business, and later international news.
On business news tonight, Nigeria's central bank launches incentive for diaspora remittances as part of its efforts to drive foreign exchange into the country.
And on sports news tonight, world number 9, Petra Kvitova beats Gabin Muguruza to win second Qatar Open title.
Call it leading by example, and you may not be wrong, as the President and the Vice President have received their first shots of the COVID-19 vaccine in full glare of the public. Arising from that, President Muhammadu Buhari is urging all eligible Nigerians to ensure that they receive the vaccination against the virus. The President wants all state governments, traditional and religious leaders to take the lead in the mobilization for the administration of the vaccine. Our State House correspondent, Gloria Omezuke, has this report.
At about 11:35 a.m., President Muhammadu Buhari prepares to become Africa's third president to receive the Oxford AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine via COVAX facility at the State House.
We're here alive, we're here to see the day.
On live television, the already loaded medical tray is rolled out in full view. The Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, Chairman and other members of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19, as well as members of the President's Cabinet, witnessed the vaccination, a process the Minister of Health earlier described as painless, followed by mild discomfort. The shot, which the President received via a narrow-gauge syringe on his upper right arm, was administered by Dr. Shuaib Sanusi, who is the chief personal physician to the President.
Personal physician of the Vice President.
6 minutes after, it is the turn of the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, who is administered by his personal physician, Dr. Nicholas Audifren. This process is part of a bid to boost public confidence as the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 attempts to inoculate about 80 million Nigerians by 2021.
Today, Mr. President and the Vice President have equally demonstrated leadership by offering themselves for the Nigerian people to believe in the safety and the efficacy of the vaccines that we have procured and is being deployed.
Each of them gets the e-vaccination card, which was presented by the Executive Director of the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency, Dr. Faisal Shoaib. The president, who observed the protocol of less movement after the vaccination, tells Nigerians that he has faith in the vaccine.
I have received my first jab, and I wish to commend it to all eligible Nigerians to do same so that we can be protected from the virus. I urge all state governments, traditional and religious leaders to take the lead in the mobilization effort within their environment and spheres of influence.
In the coming days, members of the Presidential Task Force, federal lawmakers, as well as members of the Federal Executive Council will get their first jab of the vaccine before state governors will take the lead in their states. From the Presidential Villa, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
To security matters now. In Borno State, Governor Babagana Zulum is urging the residents to build resilience and defend their communities against aggression going forward. Governor Zulum said this after inspecting destroyed infrastructure in Dikwa following an attack launched on the community by insurgents on Monday.
The attack on Dikwa town, Borno State, left in its trail massive destruction, which translates to a setback for the government.
No more prisoner of war!
The headquarters of the Army Super Camp 9 was where the Chief of Army Staff addressed troops, giving them a 48-hour ultimatum to take back Marte, overrun by insurgents.
The essence of this visit is operational. The idea is to motivate you. In the last few days, we had attacks in your area of responsibility. It is now high time we get back and fight through and support our forces ahead of you. I wish you well on the operation, and I know the morale remains high.
Monday's attack left the super camp headquarters a caricature of its original self. The insurgents also unleashed mayhem on the palace of the Shehu of Dikwa, Nigerian Army 81 Division Task Force Battalion, 22 Armored Brigade Headquarters, UN Humanitarian Hub, Primary Healthcare Center, and IDP camps. Nearly a week after the attack, a cumulative casualty figure is yet to be ascertained.
They came in the night and burnt down our properties, mats, food and houses. They burnt everything down. We don't have places to sleep now, and we are in a serious dilemma. Unfortunately, 3 people lost their lives.
The insurgents came and fired into the town, burning everywhere. They entered the brigade and all the soldiers fled. They burnt everywhere. We ran to the town. The fire burnt 3 people in this place alone. All 3 were women.
Governor Babagana Zulum is back in Dikwa to meet residents and assess the level of destruction.
Indeed, it is a very sad moment, but nonetheless, directing the Ministry of RRR, Reconstruction, Rehabilitation and Resettlement, to ensure the immediate rehabilitation and reconstruction of all the burned down structures, while we are appealing to the Nigerian military as well as the federal government to ensure stability of this region.
The impact of insurgents in the northeast cannot be overemphasized, and the Borno State government is asking the federal government to work towards stabilizing the region to free the people from the twin evil of terror and starvation.
Meanwhile, the Nigerian army has buried a commanding officer and 4 other soldiers killed in the attack on the military base in Mate local government area of Borno State, with their wives and family members present. The attack occurred on February the 14th when the commanding officer, Major Benda Ishaya from the 22 Battalion, led a reinforcement to Mate to support dislodged troops. The insurgents had hoisted their flags in Mate for at least a week before the Chief of Army Staff's 48-hour ultimatum to troops at the 81 Division Task Force Battalion, which is also the headquarters of Super Camp 9 Dikwa, leading to Mate's recapture. The bodies of Major Ishaya, a sergeant, 2 lance corporals and a private were retrieved from the battlefield. They were all laid to rest today at the Maimali Cantonment Military Cemetery. 12 people have been kidnapped by bandits from the junior staff quarters of the Kaduna International Airport, located in the outskirts of the state capital. One of the victims, who is a staff of the Nigerian Airspace Management Agency, NAMA, was kidnapped along with his wife, 5 children, and 3 of his visitors, while the wife and child of a staff of the Nigerian Meteorological Agency were also kidnapped during the attack. Although the police authorities are yet to confirm the incident, the North Central Regional Manager of the agency, Mr. Sani Medadi, told Channels Television that the gunmen invaded the staff quarters today and broke into 2 apartments. He said that the prompt response of the soldiers stationed on the Kaduna Airport Road prevented the bandits from kidnapping more people.
Kaduna, just like some states in the northwest zone, is still grappling with the twin problems of banditry and kidnapping, with hundreds abducted and ransom paid for their freedom. One of the affected areas is Igabi Local Government Council, a place that is home to the Kaduna International Airport. In the early hours of Saturday, some persons suspected to be bandits invaded the staff quarters of the airport and attacked 2 houses where some of the workers live. By the time they were done, 12 persons had been taken away.
And he told me that his wife was kidnapped, and the neighbor also, a staff of NAMA, himself, his wife, and 4 or 5 children were also kidnapped. So this is a very big problem to us.
This is not the first time the airport has come under attack from bandits. Last year, some persons were also abducted from their homes, with 1 person killed and another injured in the process. Despite this attack, the state government says it's rising to the occasion.
Kaduna State Government, in collaboration with security agencies, scale up presence of security assets in the general area.
Still on the incidents, but this time in Lagos, as the Senate Committee on Aviation comes visiting some of the agencies. The Managing Director of the Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria says this situation calls for better security strategies.
These challenges have evolved, and that evolution means there is room now for us, there is a need for us now to also improve our own strategy to counter these challenges. The last time we've been communicating with the same agencies and the state government. And of course, there are so many things we are doing. We have some information, but it's not very proper now for us to go into detail telling you what we are doing.
For the Senate Committee Chairman, it's time to embrace local government policing.
No, I don't even believe in a state police. I believe in a local government police. I think that there's a need to have a force in place for aviation sector. Okay.
Kidnapping and banditry have been a major concern for residents of Kaduna State, as most live in palpable fear. Most of these residents hope that the federal government will not relent in its fight against banditry and other criminal vices.
In part two, after the break, Minister of Aviation hints on reopening of airports in Kano, Port Harcourt and Enugu to international flights about a year after closure following the outbreak of COVID-19. Stay with us. You're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. President Buhari and Vice President Oshibajo received their first shots of the AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine. State governments, religious and traditional leaders urged to lead vaccination campaign. Gunmen abduct 12 people after invading the Kaduna Airport Junior Staff Quarters. Residents call for urgent security beef up in the area. Borno State Governor Babagana Zulum inspects damaged infrastructure in Dikwa following attack by insurgents, as soldiers killed in Mate are buried in Maiduguri. And U.S. Senate passes $1.9 trillion relief plan aimed at helping Americans deal with the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. We'll continue with security matters. In Katsina State, at least 4 bandits have been neutralized by troops of Operation Hadarin Daji during a clearance operation. The troops engaged the bandits at Marina Village in the Zamfara local government area, where they left some other bandits with various degrees of injuries. This is according to the Director of Army Public Relations, Brigadier General Mohammed Yarima, who explained that the armed men were sighted and intercepted on the Batsari-Ruka road with an unspecified number of rustled cattle. He explains that the bandits fired at the troop, who then responded with superior firepower, seizing 2 AK-47 rifles and 1 motorcycle belonging to the bandits. Unfortunately, 1 soldier died during the encounter. In a related development, the police in Katsina State said 1 bandit has been killed by troops of Operation Pofada in Kankara local government area. Staying with security matters, but this time in Ekiti State, southwest Nigeria, where 2 farmers have been killed after clashing with some herders in Ikole local government area. The police public relations officer in the state, Mr. Sunday Abutu, who confirmed the incident, says crisis ensued between some farmers and herders, leading to the casualties recorded. Mr. Abutu says police operatives have been deployed to that axis to maintain law and order, and investigations are ongoing. The Benue State Security Council has declared war on militia groups and bandits operating in the Sakera axis, where the elder brother to the former governor, Mr. Tukera Suswan Tigre, was recently murdered. The area covers 3 councils of Kastinala, Ukum, and Logo. While briefing journalists at the end of the meeting in Makurdi, Governor Samuel Otom says those behind the gruesome murder will be arrested. This comes as eyewitnesses also narrated how the gunmen shot Mr. Suswan Tigre 3 times on the chest and killed another young man who was around him.
It's a sad day at the home of the late Tekura Suswam Tingi, elder brother to former Governor Gabriel Suswam, who was brutally murdered on Tuesday, March the 2nd, directly opposite his private residence in Anyi Logo Council of Benue State. Bullet holes which perforated the iron gate and walls of his commercial plaza corroborate the accounts of eyewitnesses during his last moments.
Before I left to my shop, somebody called me. That's also thing like happened like that. I have an idea. I say no. I just left the man, so I don't know whether something happened. So I called somebody that was very close there to confirm, and he said he had a gunshot by the background. So let him go and check.
The man come out for the gun.
An unidentified gunman came out of a car parked just beside a bar next to the plaza. He went into the compound, shot at a security official and Dr. Suswan, and went back into his vehicle and zoomed off.
A relative and head of the Tingi family expressed sadness over the incident.
At first, I didn't believe it because I thought that will never happen in Anyi here. And it has never happened before. I was wondering how it came and happened like that. I was shocked, so I investigated more to find out whether what they are telling me was true or not. When I knew yesterday that it was true, I informed my junior brothers who are in Makurdi.
The killing prompted an emergency State Security Council meeting where far-reaching decisions were made.
This council have declared war, total war against criminal elements. Not just those who assassinated our brother, Tekura Susam, but against all bandits, all criminals.
The meeting ends with security chiefs pledging to mobilize all their assets to crack down on all illegal arms-bearing groups, especially in view of the presidential order to shoot on sight anyone bearing AK-47s.
From security to aviation, the Minister of Aviation, Mr. Hadi Sirika, is assuring Nigerians that all international airports across the country will be reopened to international flight operations soon. The airports were closed in March last year as a precaution against COVID-19, but those of Lagos and the nation's capital, Abuja, have since been reopened to international operations. Mr. Sirika was speaking during a meeting with the Kano caucus of the House of Representatives, who are asking that the Malam Aminu Kano International Airport be reopened. Our correspondent Terry Kumi has this report.
As part of measures to help contain the spread of COVID-19 in the country, the federal government in March 2020 ordered the closure of the 5 international airports. However, in May, the international airports in Abuja and Lagos were reopened, leaving the Malam Aminu Kano International Airport, Kano, Akano Ibiam International Airport, Enugu, and the Port Harcourt International Airport, Omagwa, still closed. Worried that the continued closure of the Kano International Airport is negatively affecting businesses, the majority leader of the House of Representatives leads members of the Kano caucus of the House to the office of the Minister of Aviation, Hadi Sirika, asking for its reopening.
As long as other 2 important or 2 key airports have been allowed to reopen and operate their international windows, we have serious concern as to why the Aminu Kano International Airport still remains closed. It is of concern to us, like I've said, because it has negatively affected commercial activities in this commercial nerve center of the sub-West African region. It is of concern to us, Mr. Minister, because it has also negatively affected on the well-being and the operations of our foreign students who do have cause time to time to travel out of the country for academic pursuits.
Kano is not any different from Port Harcourt. Port Harcourt is also equally closed. Enugu is also closed. There is oil and gas activity in Port Harcourt. They now have to be chartering airplanes to land into Port Harcourt. It's a health matter and matter of national security. Constitutional national security of lives and property of the people. So when it becomes time enough to stagger the opening or reopening of airports to begin to allow flights to start, it is in the wisdom of the Presidential Task Force of COVID-19, the Presidency, the Ministry of Health, the National Security Architecture, and Civil Aviation to start opening with Abuja alone at the time.
The minister gives the assurance that the international airports will soon be reopened.
I want to assure the good people of Kano, Jigawa, my own state, Katsina, Zamfara, Jos, and Bauchi, and Kaduna, to please kindly bear with the situation. Kano, Port Harcourt, Enugu are on their way to being opened.
As the country gets set to resume international flights in Enugu, Kano, and Port Harcourt, calls have continued for increased surveillance against other killer diseases such as Ebola, which has resurfaced in neighboring African countries. Terry Ikumi, Channels Television News.
Governor Nyesom Wike has continued his drive to open Rivers State for more development with the flagging off of another flyover project, the 8th, to be constructed by his administration. The governor says the massive revolution in infrastructure development is aimed at restoring the state to its garden city status. The ceremony to kickstart the construction of the latest flyover at the former Waterlines Junction in the state capital was performed by former governor, Mr. Celestine Omehia.
For 6 days, Governor Nyesom Wike has been leading guests and cabinet members to various areas in Rivers State for the inauguration of projects. From flyovers to roads, clinic and administrative buildings in the government house, Port Harcourt.
It is well with the governor, it is well with his team, it is well with everyone that is here.
Governor Wike continues this drive to open the state for greater development.
Go to the city, go to the GRA, go and see what has happened. The massive revolution we have carried out. And this is what Port Harcourt used to be in those days. And we're trying to bring it back of what is known as the Garden City. I think our people should be happy. Why we are doing this is because you too, you played a role in bringing us to government. We also have to pay you back. I remember during the last election how the army and other security agencies tried to rig us out in that election. All of you here came out and resisted that. So for us, having given us that privilege, we have no other choice but also give you good infrastructure. It will create jobs. There are boys and girls which was better have no choice to employ them.
Before flagging off the 802 meters 8-lane dual carriage flyover, the former governor of Rivers State, Celestine Omehia, commends Governor Wike for fulfilling his campaign promises to residents.
Your Excellency, you have hit the road running for the second term. And my answer is, he is fulfilling his social contract with the people of Rivers State. He is fulfilling his promises for the people of Rivers State. He has told them to trust him and give him the vote. And they have actually trusted you, and you, on your part, you are fulfilling what you have promised to do for the people of Rivers State.
The 8th flyover is the latest project to be undertaken by the Wike administration in Rivers State. As the state government concludes the week-long project commissioning and prepares to start the 5th phase on Monday, residents are hopeful the projects will increase the economic visibility of the state.
To politics now. Residents of Delta State took to the poll today to elect those who will administer their affairs at the 3rd tier of government. 11 political parties contested for various positions, while the All Progressives Congress APT boycotted the poll, alleging irregularities in the exercise. Over 8,000 men and officers of the Delta State Police Command, led by the State Commissioner of Police, Mr. Mohammed Ali, were out to ensure there was no breakdown of law and order. The governor, Ifeanyi Okowa, who was at his ward in Ika East local government area to cast his vote, called for constitutional provision for the conduct of local government elections in every state.
The Constitution of our country provides for such, for a democratically elected local government council. That's what the Constitution says. So any governor who is not conducting local government elections is actually failing to obey the Constitution, which is sought to uphold. Therefore, I had always insisted and told them that I will never at any point in time have what you call caretaker committees. And I think that it's only fair that we should be obedient to the Constitution. And since it has provided for a democratically elected local government, then we must also ensure that that is done.
Meanwhile, in Jigawa State, voters in Kafin Hausa local government area also came out to choose their candidate in the by-election for the member representing the constituency State Assembly. The lawmaker representing the constituency, Honorable Adamu Bari of the All Progressives Congress, died on January the 18th. The resident electoral commissioner in the state, Dr. Mahmoud Isa, described the process as smooth despite some technical hitches. The newly elected officials of the People's Democratic Party Southeast Zone have assured the delegates of their commitment to serve through inclusive leadership. While delivering his acceptance speech at the party zonal congress held at the Michael Okpara Square, the chairman, Mr. Ali Odefa, said his administration will work to regain all states currently governed by other political parties. The congress was attended by Governor of Enugu State, Ifeanyi Ugwuanyi, the former PDP governors from the southeast, national and state assembly members, as well as other stakeholders from the southeast zone.
Hello. My promise today is that I shall strive hard together with my colleagues to put the party interest first before any other interest. We shall treat all men equally. We shall be unbiased in all our activities. And should any matter come to us, we shall always provide level playing field for everybody to participate. Every place that we have lost ground in the party in the zone, God will help us to recover, starting from Anambra State.
A former caretaker committee chairman of the APC in Rivers State, Mr. Igor Aguma, has announced his exit from the party. This comes after the Supreme Court dismissed his appeal yesterday against the judgment of an appeal court which nullified his recognition as the party's caretaker chairman in Rivers State by a state high court. In a statement, Mr. Aguma explains that he cannot continue to be a member of a political party that endangers and does not give any form of protection to the rights of its members. He states that the judgment of the Supreme Court shows that it's not within the purview of the court to protect the rights and privileges of members of a political party, but that of the APC, which he says has failed to do so. More petitioners showed up at the resumed sitting of the Lagos State Judicial Panel on Restitution for Victims of SARS and other related matters. One of those testifying is Mrs. Ebere Okpara, who narrated how she was lured out of her apartment to receive a DHL parcel. She's the second petitioner to tell the panel how police officers apprehend victims under the guise of delivering DHL parcels. The petitioner, who says she spent 11 days in detention, claims she was lured, beaten, and locked up as a means to arrest her husband. The police claim that he was a suspect in the investigation of the alleged kidnapper, Chukwudumeme Onwuamadike, popularly known as Evans, a claim the petitioner denies.
It all started on July 14th, 2017. I was called by the number that I have a DHL parcel, that I should come to DHL office to collect my parcel. I didn't call the number back because I wasn't expecting any parcel from any DHL. After some minutes, the same number called me back again, that where is my bus stop so that they can help me and deliver the DHL. So I gave them my bus stop. So when I got to the bus stop, I ran into 4 men. They were on mufti. So when I reached there, they told me that I should enter a car. There's a car there. So I asked them who they were. They told me that they are police officers. I told them that I will not get into their car because I cannot identify them. They bundled me inside their car as I was shouting for help, shouting at the bus stop there. They brought out a gun. As they were beating me all over my body, they took me straight to Ikeja, their headquarters. I stayed there 11 days. While I was inside the cell, Idowu was chatting with my husband that they are kidnappers, that he should bring a ransom of 10 million naira.
month after the demolition of some houses in the Bejuleke area of Lagos State, members of the community are asking the state government to intervene and ease their plight. During a visit by our crew to the site to the demolition, some of the victims who have nowhere to go were seen in temporary shelters. Our correspondent, Chris Ilems, has the rest of the story.
They once owned and lived in their houses, but today, many of them now reside on the street after the demolition of their property in the early hours of February the 8th, 2021, as seen in this eyewitness video. This protest, staged on the 12th of February, was to register their grouse against the Lagos State government that ordered the demolition, which affected over 400 houses in Okegon, Kayitoro, in the Bejuleke area of Lagos State. They were received by a team from the Lagos State House of Assembly and left with a promise that the government will look into their case.
You can be rest assured that your interests will be protected. Nobody in Lagos can treat any Lagosian lawfully on his property anyhow. So you can have the best of assurance that this matter will be looked into critically by the House.
It's been 1 month after the incident, and a visit to the site reveals an unpleasant experience. Many who could not find a place to squat now live in squalor, taking up spaces around the demolished site where they have erected temporary shelter.
The suffering is too much, please, they should help us.
While they await the response of the Lagos State government to their plight, the president of the African Bar Association, Hannibal Waifo, commiserates with the victims, but describes the event as totally uncalled for, considering the impact on these residents.
This is not fair. The African Bar Association is very sad that at this time in our history, government can carry bulldozers at 4 a.m. and start bulldozing houses with wives and children inside. Drive them to the street, wherever you like, go. It's our land. Government is holding land in trust for the people.
Many of these victims had a sense of security after building their homes here in Okegon, Kayitoro, in the Bejuleke area of Lagos State. Unfortunately today, that has been shredded in bits and pieces, and their hope for respite diminishes with each passing day. Chris Ilems, Channels Television News.
It's over 2 months since the official commencement of trading under the African Continental Free Trade Area, and most countries are yet to key into the deal valued at $3.4 trillion. The agreement is expected to lift around 30 million people out of extreme poverty and make African countries more competitive in the global space. In this next report, we take a look at how prepared Nigerian businesses are to tap into the continental trade deal.
The concept of the African Continental Free Trade Area is believed to be a good thing from Africa, with its ability to increase employment opportunities, incomes, as well as the continent's GDP. According to data from the World Bank, the AFCFTA provides major opportunities for countries to boost growth, lift 30 million Africans out of extreme poverty, boost income, and increase Africa's export, mostly manufacturing. But since the commencement on January the 1st, less than 2% of countries have already kick-started trading under the treaty, including Nigeria. A trade expert remains optimistic that by the second quarter of this year, Nigeria will be listed among countries that would have commenced trading under the AFCFTA.
Some businesses in Nigeria that are already taking advantage of PTLS are ready for AFCFTA. If that procedure is out today and they have all the information they need, they will apply. Within a month, maybe the committee will have been done with them. Maybe in another By second quarter, I'm optimistic by second quarter, we should begin to start trading under AFCFTA.
Even with his optimism, it is not a bed of roses for some businesses who identify key challenges affecting full participation.
What does government need to do? The first one is to look at the issue of the port. Two, to also look at restructuring the custom to reduce corruption, to make sure that we don't give advantage to others and kill the indigenous companies.
As regards the issue of port congestion, the Managing Director of the Nigerian Port Authority gives details of efforts ongoing to eliminate the brick walls.
But we're also calling on the other agencies to simplify the process so that what does it mean if you have to export yam? So what are the processes that you need to do before you get here? So it's not when you arrive Lagos and you're in the port and your yam is getting rotten, that is when you're getting your documentations clear.
With the gains attributed to the AFCFTA, experts believe government can reduce the burden on businesses and traders in order to ensure free flow of goods across borders on the continent.
For more business stories, here is Teniola.
Thanks a lot, Melinda. Welcome to Business News. The central bank has introduced the CBN Naira for Dollar scheme as an incentive for senders and recipients of international money transfers in an effort to sustain inflows of diaspora remittances into the country. In a notice sent to deposit money banks, international money transfer operators, and the general public, the CBN explains that all recipients through licensed IMTOs will be paid 5 Naira for every $1 received as diaspora remittance inflow. The CBN mentions that the incentive will be paid to recipients whether they choose to collect the dollar as cash across the counter in a bank or transfer into their domiciliary account. The scheme takes effect from Monday, March the 8th and ends on May the 8th, 2021. Meanwhile, the Naira ended the week firmer by 0.41% at the parallel window of the Forex market to close at 480 against the dollar, in contrast to 482, which it traded last week. Currency traders and analysts credit the moderate gain on the local currency to improved Forex liquidity following the central bank's intervention within the week. However, the Naira weakened by 0.6% against the dollar at the investors and exporters window as it traded at 411 per unit of the foreign currency as total Forex turnover decreased by 52.9% within the week. The Nigerian Export and Import Bank, Nexim, is pledged to provide an enabling environment for local manufacturers to enjoy comparative advantage in the newly introduced Africa Continental Free Trade Initiative. Nexim's Managing Director, Abba Bello, made the pledge in Kano during an inspection of a granite marble processing plant in the state, where he promised that necessary logistics will be put in place to reduce the cost of export in Nigeria. But the CEO of Dutse Granite, Mustafa Habib, cautioned that without the intervention, local manufacturers will be left behind in the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement.
For us, as a development finance institution, we have certain targets that we have. And currently for Nexim Bank, one of the things that we have put as our priority is to advance our trade up the value chain. That is by encouraging processing. Now, this is just a proof of concept for granite and marble processing, okay? And you've seen it with your own eyes, from stones that come from the quarry to the cranes, to cutting and polishing, and then cutting into different sizes of slabs. In the first instance, we supply the local market, but don't forget that free trade area has opened up. And if I'm not mistaken, I think they already have orders from some of the countries from across the border. Now the logistics is the problem, and which is the next level for us to support the company to ensure that value is getting. Yeah.
But for the shell you see here, everything here is supported by NEXI, financed 100% by NEXI. So that is the level of support we give. Not only that, when we were in trouble, they came to our aid with working capital. So without NEXI, you wouldn't be here. That's it. But you can see a lot of the machines are automated. And because of the nature of the industry, some of them we chose, we could have complete automated machines here. But because of the nature of our country with erratic power supply, we took some semi-automatic.
The adoption of biotechnology has been described as a key towards unlocking the huge potentials in the nation's agricultural sector. Its Director General, Professor Abdullahi Mustafa, who was speaking at a meeting in Abuja, explains that science and technology will continue to play a leading role in the attainment of food security, poverty reduction, and job creation, with the adoption of new innovations in the field. The bears continue to dictate proceedings at the local bourse as the market records its first weekly loss within the new month amid growing concerns about rising yields in the fixed income market. As a result, the NSE's main index dropped by 1.18%, its highest weekly decline so far this year. The loss, which translates to about 245 billion naira in value, affected 71 equities led by Champion Breweries and countered the gains from Morrison Industries and 13 other advances. However, activity levels were stronger as volume and value turnover rose by 8.4% and 44% accordingly. In sectoral performance, the Industrial Goods Index emerged as the week's only gainer with a 1.39% increase, while consumer goods counter is worst among 3 other sectors. And that's business news tonight. I'm Teniola Shoboale. It's back to you, Melinda.
Many thanks, Teniola. The governor of Ogun State, Dapo Abiodun, has made a case for the reactivation and development of his agro-cargo airport being promoted at Ikenne local government area. While speaking with the members of the Senate Committee on Aviation, led by its chairman, Mr. Smart Adeyemi, at the Executive Council Chamber in Abeokuta, the state capital, the governor said the project is intended to diversify the economy and give support to agriculture as well as the value chain for export. The first phase of the project, initiated in 2007, according to the governor, is expected to be completed and commissioned in 2022.
Afrexim is building what they call the first Africa international standards testing center at the interchange. The interchange is probably about maybe 2.5 kilometers from this location. And the choice was deliberate. Like I said to you, we are very deliberate and methodical. We gave them that location because of the proximity to the airport. And that testing center will be the first on the continent. It would allow you to go there and test any produce for export. So once it's stamped for export, then you can export it. And then he spoke about the African Finance Development Bank. AFDB, there was a tender for a special agro-processing zone, and the 6 states in the southwest bidded for it. And in that bid, everybody had to make a case for why it should be in their state. This airport was part of the case we made for the special agro-processing zone. And they thought there was no better location for the zone. So we have the special agro-processing zone and the airport cohabiting in the same location. Because the idea is that right there, you have all these raw materials as inputs coming from all over the state. They come to that place, they are processed, and they can be air freighted from there. That zone is not just a special mobilization zone, but a logistics base as well.
A shoreline protection facility and a jetty at the Underwater Warfare School in Ojo, Lagos has been commissioned for use. Funded by the Ecological Fund Office, the project's meant to keep the area free from erosion menace and has been described as timely by the Chief of Naval Staff, Vice Admiral Anwar Gambo.
The shoreline protection and the restoration of the jetty would no doubt enhance Nigerian Navy maritime security operations. It is instructive to state that the timely completion of this project has helped to stave off the fears associated with shoreline erosion, including the attendant risk of flooding to the entire landscape. This is even more worrisome considering that Navy Town is a strategic naval establishment housing the largest Nigerian Navy barracks as well as other major Nigerian Navy establishments, including providing a sheltered harbor for berthing of critical naval assets and some of our vessels.
In his remark, the Minister of State for Health, Mr. Olorunniyi Mamara, who was a guest at the commissioning, says the project is a huge source of relief to residents as well as a response to the emerging trend in modern warfare.
Aside this project bridging the gap of infrastructural deficit in our military formation, it is also very instructive that modern military institution requires such an intervention to respond to the emerging trend and sophistication in modern warfare in addressing the security challenges retarding our growth and nation building. By and large, the intervention of the federal government on the shoreline protection works and construction of jetty has brought about huge relief and assuage the fear of the menace of erosion and other ecological challenges in this area.
For what's up in the world of sports, here is Olumide.
Let's bring you some mixed martial arts now. UFC middleweight champion Israel Adesanya says he is really confident of becoming a two-division champion when he challenges Jan Blachowicz for the light heavyweight strap at UFC 259. Adesanya successfully weighed in at 200.5 pounds for the championship bout. Despite weighing almost 5 pounds less than his opponent, Adesanya says he will be slaying Goliath with a sling at the UFC Apex in Las Vegas early Sunday morning, Nigerian time. And that's it on sports news. Alinda, back to you.
Many thanks, Olumide. The U.S. Senate has voted to approve America's third major spending package to deal with the impact of the coronavirus pandemic. The $1.9 trillion plan, passed by 50 votes to 49, will now head to the House of Representatives, where it's expected to be approved. The relief plan has been championed by President Joe Biden as a way to help struggling citizens. America's worst public health crisis in a century has left nearly 523,000 people dead and 29 million infected, with a current unemployment rate of 6.2%. Pope Francis has condemned extremism in the name of religion on a historic visit to Iraq, where he discussed the plight of the Christian minority. He has also asked the faithful to work together for peace and unity during an interfaith meeting at the traditional birthplace of the prophet Abraham. Earlier in the day, the pontiff, who is on a 4-day visit to Iraq, held a historic meeting with a top Shiite cleric in the holy city of Najaf. And the main news again. President Buhari and Vice President Oshibajo received their first shots of the AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccines State governments, religious and traditional leaders have been urged to lead the vaccination campaign. That's the news at 10 tonight. I'm Melinda Akinlami on behalf of the team.